How do you prepare someone for the day they look at the person they built a life with and feel like a stranger, even when she's right there beside you, her body warm under the same blanket? The silence between you can echo louder than any argument ever could. I never imagined I'd be this man. But here I am, 51 years old. The kids are grown. The house is quieter now, calmer, but not in a peaceful way. More like something's missing. And every morning I wake up beside the woman I promised forever to, and wonder when we stopped seeing each other. She's not mean. She's not distant in a dramatic movie scene way. But somewhere between the school drop-offs and the career climbs, between the bills and bedtime routines, we stopped reaching. We stopped laughing. We stopped connecting. Now, it's not cold. It's not cruel. It's worse. It's quiet. That kind of quiet that replaces affection with absence, that trades passion for politeness, that turns shared space into separate lives. We didn't shatter, we simply drifted. A missed glance here, a shorter hug there, a night where she turned off the light before I got into bed. Then another, and another. We went from soulmates to housemates, from teammates to task managers, from whispered jokes under the covers to texts about grocery lists. Brother, no one prepares you to mourn something that technically isn't dead, to grieve a marriage that still shows up in photos, still signs cards. Together, but feels empty behind the smiles. So what do? We do what we've always done. We man up, we show up, we provide, we protect, and in the process, we forget to feel. But even the most dependable man can't carry that silence forever. Even the strongest among us has limits, and sometimes what looks like strength is just a mask worn so long we forget who's behind it. If this sounds familiar, if you're nodding your head, even a little, I want to say this clearly. You are not weak for wanting closeness. You're not needy for craving affection. And no, you are not broken. You're human. And healing doesn't begin with blame. It begins with honesty. There was a time when she used to smile the moment I walked into a room, when she'd rest her hand on mine without thinking, when we'd get lost in conversations about nothing and everything long after we should have gone to sleep. We could read each other's thoughts. We moved in rhythm, even in chaos. Back then, even a glance from across the kitchen meant, I still see you. But slowly, almost invisibly, that rhythm changed. There was no fight, no betrayal, just exhaustion, just time. And it showed up in small ways. The quick goodnight that replaced kisses. The way she turned her back in bed, not out of anger, but out of habit. How I love you turned into, don't forget the dry cleaning. And I told myself, this is just a season. But the seasons changed. And nothing came back. I started to feel hollow. I began to ask questions I never thought I'd ask. Am I still enough? Did I do something wrong? Does she even see me anymore? That confusion, that slow unraveling, it chips away at your confidence in the quietest, cruelest ways. And yet, I stayed silent, because that's what we're taught, right? Don't rock the boat. Don't sound needy. Don't admit it hurts. So I wore the smile. I played the role. And inside, I disappeared. But I wasn't alone. There are millions of men out there carrying this ache, men who provide, who protect and yet feel like ghosts in their own homes. So I'm going to say this again, because someone needs to hear it. You are not the problem. You are not weak. You are not alone. And most importantly, it's not too late. But let's talk about how things really started to change. You don't need a grand gesture. You don't need to write a speech or book a retreat. You just need to start with one real, grounded step. For me, that began with the smallest shift, presence. I stopped multitasking when she spoke, even if it was just about groceries or work. I looked at her, I nodded, I responded, and that simple act, being fully there, started to thaw something. Then I added a morning ritual. We had coffee together every day. No phones, no news, just 10 quiet minutes on the porch or even in silence at the kitchen table. It wasn't about solving anything, it was about showing up. Next, I made space for us, intentionally. I told her, let's pick one night a week. Just us, no screens, no chores, no background noise. Sometimes we made dinner together. Sometimes we walked around the neighborhood. Sometimes we sat on the couch and looked through old photos. What mattered wasn't the activity. It was choosing to be together on purpose. I also started asking her questions again, real ones. What was your favorite memory from last year? What's something you've always wanted to do but never told me? You'd be amazed at how much someone can open up when they feel someone is genuinely curious, not critical, not demanding, just present and listening. And when the talking felt too heavy, we wrote. I bought a simple journal. I wrote the first entry, I miss us. Then I left it on her nightstand. No pressure, no deadline. A few days later, she wrote back, and just like that, we started speaking again, even when it was hard to find the words. But even with all that, some days still felt too much. That's when I reached for help. Not because I was broken, because I wanted to grow. I found a therapist who understood older couples, people navigating years of history, silence and change. And I joined a men's group. Just sitting with other guys who'd been through it made me feel stronger, not smaller. And along the way, I focused inward too. I stopped waiting for her to validate me. I did things that made me feel alive. A long walk before sunrise. A book that reminded me of who I used to be, playing guitar, badly but joyfully. It wasn't about fixing everything at once. It was about showing up with love, with courage, and with consistency. It didn't happen overnight. Some days she leaned in. Other days she pulled away. But I kept showing up, because the connection I missed wasn't going to rebuild itself. And over time, those small choices, the coffee, the questions, the walks, the journal, they began to add up, not in big, dramatic ways, but in quiet shifts. A softer look, a longer hug, a moment where her hand reached for mine again. That's when I knew. It was time to stop pretending everything was fine and start telling the truth. I also turned inward. I started taking care of my body, picked up an old hobby that made me feel alive again, and little by little, I remembered who I was, even without her validation. Eventually, I found the courage to tell her, I feel invisible. She didn't run. She didn't dismiss me. She paused. And she saw me. That moment, it didn't change everything. But it changed enough. We rebuilt, not with perfection, but with intention. And now I understand. Intimacy isn't just physical. It's built in the little things. Eye contact, curiosity, choosing to reach out again and again. So, brother, if you've been fading, it's time to come back. Not just for her, for you. You're not too far gone. You're not too late, and you don't have to do this alone. Start small, speak honestly, and take that first step. Let's keep this conversation alive.